Good afternoon and welcome to our latest webinar. Today we're going to be covering WHS Setup in ClubV1 and educate you guys on how it all works through ClubV1. We do have a few housekeeping tasks just to start with. For those of you that have attended the session before, you will see on the right hand side of your screen or at the bottom if you're on a mobile, there is a questions facility. So please feel free to ask some questions as we go through. We've got a team of people working behind the scenes who will be able to answer your questions as we go through. We also have two handouts that are available to download. One is the lecture slides from today, so you can download those, refer to those after the session. And the other one is a guidance from Kongu and the RNA with WHS rules and calculations and everything like that. At the very end of the session, when you leave the webinar, there is a very quick survey which we'd like you to fill out. So please spend some time just going through those. Just give us some feedback. We're going to be hosting some more webinars in the new year. So please just fill out that survey so it gives us some feedback and we can provide more services for you. I'm just going to introduce the room today. My colleague Darren Wood is going to just say a few words now.
Thanks, Alex. Firstly, I think we've got now getting up to 350 people that have joined our webinar so far today, which is by far the biggest attendance we've had for one of the webinars that we've done so far. But considering it is the hot topic at the moment, world handicapping, we're certainly not surprised. So it's great to see so many people trying to interact with us and learn a little bit more about how ClubV1 and world handicapping are working together. So for those of you that know me, I can't see everybody's name on the screen at the moment. There's far too many people getting involved. But I'm sure a lot of you might have seen me at the road shows over the last few years. The one at the front shouting every 10 minutes to move around and get to your next station. Relationship Manager at Club Systems, working very much with the outside account managers, including Alex, who looks after the South region, and then part of the management team at Club Systems. So just a few little bits from me to start us off, and then we can let Alex go through his presentation, and then we'll all catch up again towards the end. So as I say, we've had 490 plus people register for this webinar, which, as I say, is by far the biggest attendance that we've had. I think it makes sense to suggest that we can't possibly answer all of the questions that you might submit live today. I can already see them coming in on my other screen, so please don't be offended if you ask a question and we don't get around to answering it. It is the sheer volume of people that we've got with the live questions, so we'll answer what we can. Don't be offended if we don't answer any of your particular questions. We did ask and invite questions in advance of the webinar. And at the end of the session, we're going to go through, myself and Alex are going to go through some of the key topics that you've asked questions about, and some of the questions that we can update you with. So probably 6 to a dozen of those questions we're going to go through at the end. As I say, we have got so many people registered, which means we've got hundreds and hundreds of questions that have been asked. What we do, for those of you that have been on one of our other webinars, is we do follow it up with a handout, as Alex suggested, and a link to review the webinar because it is being recorded. But we also send you a Q&A sheet, an FAQ sheet. So we will retrospectively go through everybody's questions that are relevant. Some of them are actually not. Some of them are actually support questions that have been passed in. So we will send them on for them to be dealt with by the right department. But all of those are genuine WHS questions. As a team, we're going to go through them in the background. As I say, there are hundreds of them. We'll answer them and we'll send them back to you with the follow-up. So just have a little bit of patience with that. We understand that everybody's really keen to get this right, really keen to get everything ready for the next season. I know a lot of us are playing golf already. The introduction of world handicapping, I don't think it surprised anybody that it's not been as smooth as we would all have hoped. Ourselves, working with all the home unions, are committed to trying to get this right by the start of next season, and every week we're picking up on things as we go along. As a lot of you know, the actual handicap calculations are now outside of the individual software providers' control. It's all done and controlled by your home unions. So now it is about picking up on the competition side for us. Some of the questions that you submitted are very much around that side of what we provide as the tournament software, the competition software. So hopefully you'll address some of those. So I think the key for us is to just ensure everybody understands we're working with the home unions, we're working with individual golf clubs to identify what we need to pick up on and improve, and also to make sure that your golfers understand this wonderful new system called World Handicapping. So that's enough for me now. We're going to get Alex go through the webinar presentation. I can see the questions are flying through on my left-hand side, so there are a few of us that are going to try and answer as many as we can. But as I say, please don't be offended or think we're ignoring you if your question doesn't get answered. We're going to try and come back to everybody after this with the questions that have been submitted with the registrations. So Alex, I'll leave it up to you. I've talked enough. It's not my show, it's yours.
Great, thanks Darren, good introduction. Yeah, we're nearly up to 400 attendees at the moment, so definitely the biggest webinar we've carried out. Just to start with then, I'm going to outline the session that we've got for today. Just go through our webinar storyboard. To start with, we're going to be looking at ClubV1 setup and getting your ClubV1 system ready for WHS. So we're going to be looking at adding slope ratings, course ratings into your course cards. And then we're going to be linking your CDH courses that you've created in ClubV1 to the courses that are in the WHS platform. Okay, we'll also be covering how to enable casual rounds through PSI systems and casual rounds through MSI or How Did I Do. Okay, the second part of the session, we'll be looking at creating new members in your system, managing the handicap records in V1 and WHS. Okay, then we're going to move on to creating competitions, go through the whole competition creation process, but we're only going to focus on singles events today. We can cover team events in another webinar later in, well, early next year actually. I'm also going to show you how to enter competition scores, so that's via the PSI and via the mobile score input as well. Then at the end of the session, we're going to be looking at casual rounds, so how to enter those casual rounds back office, how to enter casual rounds from a player's perspective through the PSI and through the mobile score input service as well. Okay, so at this point of the presentation, I'm just going to come out of my slides and we're going to go into ClubV1. Okay, so we're actually going to use a live example in the system today. So we've got Gordé Loose Golf Club have kindly agreed to let us use their system. So we're just going to go through some of the setup procedures to start with in ClubV1. Okay, so the main setup is all in the ClubV1 settings. Now to access those, you can access them through the settings cog, top right hand corner, and you can press settings. In here, you've got your courses and your CDH courses here, which is where we're going to start. So using courses to start with, Gordé Loose have got 4 golf courses set up in their system, but it's an 18-hole course, so they've only got 1 course card in use, which is the Phoenix 2020. Okay, now when you create a course, you can use the plus icon to create that course in the system. We're going to just call it test. We'll give that 18 holes. You can add images if you want to, but more importantly, this is where you can distinguish your tee sets and you can input your course rating and your slope rating. So let's have a look at a live example for Gordé Loose. So what we're going to do is just press edit on their current golf course, press continue, and here you can see they've got the whites, yellows and reds in the system with their rated course ratings and their slope ratings. Now we'll be using the slope rating a little later in the competition section for the handicap adjustment of the 95% in competition. So we'll come to that later. Okay, so when you go through and create a competition, just make sure you enter these details here. And that's the first stage. Once you've created your courses in ClubV1, you'll need to create them in WHS as well. And then you need to link the 2 systems. On the left-hand side, there is now a new setting called CDH courses. In here, you'll have your course cards that are created in ClubV1, but you'll also have the option to link those to courses that are created in WHS as well. So they've got their 18-hole courses here. You can see there's the red card, there's the white card, and there's the yellow card. And you can see that is linked to the yellow course in WHS. The white card is obviously linked to the white, and the red is linked to the red. Absolutely perfect. They also run 9-hole courses as well. So you can create those in ClubV1 using the course card setting on the left-hand side. And again, you'll need to link those to the correct area of WHS as well. So you can do that in the CDH courses. Here's the ladies front 9 red, and that is linked to the ladies front 9 here with the correct course rating and slope rating. Same for the gents front 9 yellow. Okay, and that will allow you to, once that is set up, that will allow you to run 18-hole courses and 9-hole courses and competitions if that's what you do at your golf club. Okay, so that is getting the course card set up in the system. Now we need to focus on score entry. So there's two sides here. We've got PSI, which is where the members can use the touchscreen, sign in for casual rounds competitions, and they can enter scores. And the other side is how did I do? Mobile score input. So first of all, let's have a look at PSI. Let's go to PSI units on the left-hand side. And at this golf club, they've got a leaderboard and they've got their PSI clubhouse unit. So when you press edit, one thing you need to make sure is that the casual rounds sign in and casual round score entry are both enabled. If these are unticked, players will not be able to sign in or enter casual rounds via the PSI. So it's important these are ticked. Obviously, COVID is an issue at the moment, but going forwards, hopefully that will ease and players will be free to enter scores and everything through the PSI. So just make sure those are ticked in readiness for that. One more setting with the PSI is under PSI settings. You've got a setting here which says allow PSI casual rounds. You'll need to make sure this is set to yes. Even if the other settings are ticked and this is set to no, players will not be able to enter casual rounds through the PSI. So it's important to make sure this setting here is set to yes, and that will allow players to use the PSI for casual rounds. Once you've set that to yes, just make sure you press save, and the PSI system is then set up for casual golf. Moving down, another setting to look at the mobile score input, the how did I do service. Let's go to how did I do settings, and in here there's a very similar setting to what we've just looked at, and this setting is called enable casual round sign in and score entry through how did I do. So you'll need to make sure this is set to yes as well, which will allow players to sign in via their mobile devices or potentially through the How Did I Do website on their laptops or PCs. Okay, so once we've done that, just press save and then we can proceed. So that is getting the system set up in readiness for WHS. Those are the fundamentals you'll need to make sure that you've got set up in your system already. If you have any issues with those, you can feel free to contact our support services and they'll be more than happy to help you there. So stage 2 of the presentation, we're going to be looking at how to add new members. Okay, so this is an England golf system, so we're going to be using their WHS platform as our example here. What I'm going to do is I've actually got a login open up here, so we're just going to log in to Gordon Luce's handicap system, which is what I've got here. Now, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail. Any questions here, you can contact your home unions. But what we can do when we create a new member, you'll need to add them into WHS in England golf situation anyway. It may differ in other home unions. Now, very simply, you can click new member, and then you can create your new member here by entering first name, surname, gender, email address, etc. Okay. Now, I've already created my test member, which is here. Now, when you create that test member, the WHS system will automatically assign a CDH ID, which is what we've got here. Perfect, and we're going to hold that, and we're going to come back to that in a second. So we're just going to go back to ClubV1. I've now joined the golf club, but I need to be added into the ClubV1 membership system as well. So when you go to People in ClubV1, on the left-hand side, there's a button that says Add Person. Okay, and in here you've got different templates. Now the handout does outline what the different templates do. So we've got golfing member CDH. So if this is a member maybe coming from another golf club, you can add them in here with their existing CDH number, and ClubV1 will pick up that player from the WHS system. Perhaps they are a new member and they don't have a handicap at the moment. So you can add them in with member with no handicap, or there is an option here for quick non-golf. These templates are essentially the same thing. The quick non-golf is slightly quicker, but it doesn't go into as much detail as the member with no handicap. Okay, so I've created myself in WHS and I've got my CDH ID. So what we're going to use is the golfing member CDH template because the CDH number already exists. So we're going to go into here. We can choose home or away. We can press continue. And at this point, ClubV1 is asking for the CDH ID. Now the top bullet point here says this player already has a CDH ID number and I will enter it now, which is correct. So let's just go back to our England golf system and we'll just copy that number and we'll paste it into this field here. Okay, now we can press continue. Because I haven't got a handicap index at the moment, it's not pulling that through, but it would do if I did have an index maybe from another club. Let's press continue. And because my details are already in the WHS system, it's pulling through my forename and surname there. Okay, so I don't need to enter those. I can add additional details, maybe title, nickname, date of birth if I want to, that's fine. Moving down, you've then got the contact page. So what I'm going to do is just add in a test email account, like so. And on the right-hand side, there is a tick box here for WHS governing body submission. So when the player opts in, this will send the email and the date of birth, name and gender to the governing body when opted in. However, you can manually opt them out or opt them in if you want to. Okay, so you can do that there. Press continue. The next stage is allocating them a membership category. System loads. Just go back into add people. You should remember that template that we're doing. So let's just press continue. Let's go down to membership where we were. Let's just say academy member in this example. Okay, you can enter finance details, you can enter swipe cards, you could add any additional info that you may need as well, but we're not going to focus on that today. Okay, so that is how we've created our member in ClubV1 and link them to the CDH system. Okay, that's going to take us to my new profile in the system, and here we are. Okay, so we've now got two sub-tabs in ClubV1 that's slightly different to the Kongu version. You can access the ClubV1 scoring record from here for that member, and that will list all of the scores they enter through ClubV1 at your home club at the bottom of this list here. Okay, we'll come to the WHS scoring record in a second. So in this section here, you can see here's my CDH ID. It's linked to the CDH. It says CDH member UID yes, which means my record is linked to the WH platform, which is absolutely fine. And I can go ahead and I can enter casual rounds for handicap purposes, etc. We're going to come back to that later. Okay, the WHS scoring record here will show you your full WHS scoring record for that player. Obviously, I'm a new member, so it's not going to show me my scoring record at the moment. We could just sidestep a little bit and have a look at a live member in the system. So my colleague Ash, you can see here he's got 4 rounds in his WHS portal, and these 4 rounds are pulled through from here. If you go to ClubV1 scoring record, I don't think Ash has played anything at the moment through ClubV1 at his home club, so that's why it's currently blank. Okay, let's just go back to my test record here. Now, if you need to switch a member to away or to home status, maybe they're changing golf clubs, you can do so. So you can always come to the ClubV1 scoring record, you can press edit, and at this point you can switch the member to away, like so, okay? And you can always remove the CDH ID if they're resigning or anything like that if you need to release that player, okay? So you can do that in there. Okay, so that is how you can add new members into the system. Will leave me here, but I'm going to delete myself a little later. Now we're going to move on to the competition side of the system. So what we're going to do is go through how to actually create a competition in ClubV1 and with all the WHS parameters that you may have. Then we're going to go through how to enter scores back office via the PSI and via MSI as well. And then we're going to focus on the casual side a little later. So when you go into competitions, on the left-hand side, you can add a competition. And in here, it'll pop up with all of the available templates that you can use to create your competitions. So if we do a single men's medal, call this one WHS test competition. Okay, today's date is fine. You can choose the scoring type here. You can allow visitors yes or no, and you can publish to how did I do in the members hub if you wish. You can also choose whether you publish your results as net or gross, and at the bottom you can select how many rounds of that competition will have, perhaps over multi-day. Then it moves on to the handicap page, and it says if this competition meets the requirements under the World Handicap System, you should set it as a qualifying competition. That's why it defaults to yes, so we're going to leave that as it is. Okay, you can change the handicap limit here if you want to. Press continue. Then it moves into divisions, and you can allocate different divisions here if you want. Division 1, Division 2, up to you guys. You can set that as you go through. Next one is allocating a course card to that competition. So in here, if you've got your courses linked to the CDH, which we discussed at the start, you can pull through those 18-hole courses here because we've chosen an 18-hole competition. Okay, so we've got the men's course here, so it knows it's men's. You've got whites and yellows, so we're going to click on whites, and then this competition will be set off the men's white tees with the correct slope rating and everything like that. So that effectively creates the competition. Then you've got some additional parameters that you may want to go through as well. So you can enable booking. So access restrictions here, you can choose whether players can choose playing partners on the PSI or not, and allow players to choose playing partners when booking on how do they do online or not. And at the top here, you've got access restrictions. So you can use this to filter out certain people from playing in the competition. Maybe it's a men's competition, but it's a seniors only competition. So this is where you can apply different filters in the system, okay? Then you can move on to booking. So if you want to enable a start sheet for this competition, just tick that box and you can then create your first tee time and your last tee time. You can then choose how many players play per time and how many minute intervals. Now, when you do create a competition, if using the ClubV1 casual tee sheet, it will allocate those tee times to the casual tee sheet as well. Press continue. Next page, we've got our booking options. So you can enable a reserve list here or not, and you can choose whether to have email notifications made for any bookings. And at the bottom, you can choose your booking parameters. So you can set these if you want. You can have zone draws, so you can have a morning zone, an afternoon zone, and the system will do a draw for you if that's what you want to do. You then can enable sign-in. So this is a good option to have. So enable sign-in, and then at this point you can enable PSI sign-in, or you can enable how did I do sign-in, or both if you want. And then again, you can choose the date and time parameters here. You can enable charging, so competition charging, so it deducts money from the member's account in here, and you can have mandatory charge items and you can have the optional charge items. So the mandatory typically would be your entrance fee, and the optional would be, say, twos, sweep, captain's charity, those kind of things, okay? So we're gonna leave that off for now. Then it comes to score entry, which we need. So we're gonna enable PSI score entry, and we're gonna enable how did I do online score entry. Press continue. And then you can enable a leaderboard if you want as well. So we're going to leave that off. The system does give you a preview and confirm of what you've created, and if you're happy with everything, you can press finish, and that will create the competition. Okay, so that has created our WHS competition. Now what we're going to do is first of all have a look at how to enter back office scores and the handicap adjustments. Now in the handout, you may get a chance to look later. I have given 2 examples of the handicap calculation that happens now since WHS. So we're going to use Ash as our example. Now Ash plays off -3, okay? Now the playing handicap is calculated with handicap index times slope rating divided by 113. Now I do have some calculations here, so if I bring up my slides again, probably easier to explain it from here. So we've got 2 examples here. So we've got example 1 of Ash and his brother Chris. So Ash's handicap is -3 times the course rating of the whites, which is 124 at Gaudet Loose, divided by 113 is -3.29. -3.29 minus 95% equals -3.1. 1-2 rounded to -3, which is why Ash's playing handicap for the competition is -3. The other example we've got is Chris. Now Chris plays off 20.1. So we've got 20.1 times 124 divided by 113 equals 22.05. 95% of that is 20.95, which is rounded to 21, which is why we have that example there. So I'm just going to enter a few scores for Ash. Okay, you do have the did not play the button here if the member perhaps skipped a hole. So let's just press save, and we'll have a look at Chris as well. Let's just add Chris in. And you can see here the example, the handicap adjustment has allocated correctly there, and his playing handicap is 21 in accordance with the slope rating and everything like that. Okay, so we can enter Chris's score. Brilliant. Okay, and those get added like so. Okay, you can submit these to the CDH if you need to, but when the competition is closed, when at the end of the day, the results, the scores will be published to the WHS platform at the end of the day, even if the competition hasn't been closed. And there is our example of how to enter back office scores in ClubV1. Okay, I'm just going to delete Ash's score so we can have a look at him entering scores through the PSI and MSI too. Excellent. So let's just go to the PSI. Let's go to MSI first. And I've got Ash's account here. Now, if we go to today's golf, in how did I do? You can do this on your mobile phones as well. So you've got sign-in facilities here, and you've got score entry. So if we go to score entry, we've got our test competition here and here, okay? I've created two because I created one earlier as well. So let's go to enter score, and this will now allow us to start entering a score through our mobile phones or through how do they do. So Chris is our marker. And at this point, we can go through and enter scores via the mobile score input system. The system will give us a front nine summary, and then we can enter the back nine, like so, and press finish. It gives us a back nine summary too. And at this point, it gives us an overall summary, and we can do a signature as well. Okay, press confirm, and that will submit our score through the mobile score input system. Okay, the other side of that is the PSI. So let's just have a look at this. Again, we can find the member in question. Remember, this is competition entry at the moment, so we can go to score entry via the PSI, and here is our WHS test competition. And then very simply, we can go through and enter the scores like so. Okay, press accept, and that will then feed the score back to ClubV1. Say no to that. Okay, let's just go back to our competition. In competitions, into WHS test competition, and we've got Ash's score here through the mobile score input system, and you can see the signature at the bottom. Absolutely perfect. So we'd encourage your members to use that and enter their scores through the mobile phones. Obviously, PSIs at the moment are a little bit tricky, but going forward, I'm sure they'll be okay. So that is how we can process singles competitions, okay? So the last section I want to cover is the casual rounds through MSI, PSI, but also back office, okay? So let's just go back to my test member. Okay, here's my record here, okay? So I currently don't have a handicap, but it's absolutely fine. So I can then add in casual rounds back office. Now, when you do this, you can select qualifying or non-qualifying, and you can choose any of the CDH courses, any WHS courses that are linked in your system, okay? So we've got the 18-hole courses here, and we've got the 9-hole courses here. So let's just go to the white course, press enter, and at this point, we can then enter my score back office, like so, for WHS purposes. You can specify the date there. Okay, and that will add that into the system. And there we've got our card. Now, at the end of the day, the system will link to WHS and send all of the casual scores that have been processed that day. Okay, so that's how you can enter back office scores. Now, any scores that are processed, if you go to competitions, there is a sub tab now called casual rounds. And in here, you'll have your casual rounds that have been submitted either back office, and you can see here there's my test member, or anybody who has entered scores through MSI or PSI too. Okay, the system does give you an overview of what the score is there, which is great. Now, I'm not going to send it because it's a demo situation here. I'm not going to send that off to the CDH. But manually back office, you can send these if they don't go through. Perhaps these examples are actually pretty good. So Ash here has signed in a couple of days ago. He signed in for a score, but he actually hasn't entered that score, which is why the system cannot send that to WHS. Okay, so the user back office, you could just delete that if that's what you want to do. Okay, I'm just going to do that for my test member there. Okay, so that is how you can manage back office casual golf. Now we're going to look at MSI and PSI casual golf as well. So let's just go back to Ash's How Did I Do profile. And if we go back to our Today's Golf button, you need to sign in first for casual rounds before you can enter a casual round score, okay? So let's go to sign in. We've got the test sign in here for the competition, but we're not going to be focusing on that this time. Here you can see the casual round for today's session. So let's click sign in. And at this point, the user, the member, or the player can specify whether it's qualifying or non-qualifying, and they can select the card of the course. So let's go to whites, and again, I can specify stroke play or Stableford. Press sign in. That will sign Ash into the competition. Now at this point, you could go ahead to score entry. Okay. Now, because we've signed in, we can now enter our score through the casual golf system. So we've got casual round here. We just sidestep and go backwards a little bit. Let's just go back to today's golf, because in theory, you'd sign in, go and play your golf, and then you'd enter your score at the end. So you'd probably come back to the ClubV, to the How Did I Do app at the end. So by going to today's golf, into score entry, then you've got casual round on the left-hand side here. So let's go to enter score. And very, very similar to what we've just seen for the competitions, you can now enter casual rounds. So again, it's probably best if you specify a marker. However, there is an option to skip. Let's press next. And very similar to what we've just experienced for competitions, the interface looks very, very similar. You can then just go through and enter your score for the front nine. Gives you an overview of your front nine score. Go through and add in the back, like so, then press finish. Gives you a back nine summary, which we're happy with. Gives you an overall again, and at this point you can sign your scorecard. Okay, press confirm, and then that will send the score back into ClubV1. And then at the end of the day, that score will then be flushed through to the WHS system for calculation for any handicap adjustments. Okay, and you can see there is the card that we've just put in for Ash, dated today with the current time, and it will go through to the WHS platform later. Okay, so that is the competition side. Let's just go back to the casual golf. That's the MSI side for casual golf. Let's just have a look at the PSI side for casual golf now as well. Okay, let's just go through here. Let's go and find Ash again. We may need to use his brother actually. So at this point, let's just go to sign in. We've got casual round here. Let's press casual round. Will this be qualifying, yes or no? Press sign in, and that signs Chris into casual golf through the PSI. It says at this point, would you like to perform another action? If you press yes, it goes back into your profile. If you press no, it will log you out, as you can see, like so. Now, in theory, we'd go and play our golf now. Go and play our 18 holes, but let's just go back to Chris's profile. We should now be able to just let the PSI catch up, and in theory we'll be able to enter our casual golf score in a second. Just need to let the database, the PSI database, sync up with ClubV1 here. We'll just let that happen. Okay, it's almost done. It's going to be uploading data in a second. There we go. So let's just go back to Chris's profile. Casual golf not appearing just yet. Okay, we may need to come back to that in a second. Let's just see if Chris has signed in, which he's signed in here, but obviously he hasn't entered a score yet. So maybe there's a slight delay on that. But what will happen on the PSI is that the casual golf button will appear in score entry, and you'll be able to enter your casual golf score there as a member. Okay. Now that covers everything for the session. I think we've got some time now for some questions with Darren. I don't know if Darren, you want to come back in to the webinar.
Sorry, I'm coming. There we go. We're back. Thank you, Alex. I was just finishing off some questions on the questions board, which is yeah, it's very, very busy. So thanks, Alex. That was a good presentation. There are a lot of questions that have been submitted as we were going through that, that we've done our best to answer some of them. As I say, please don't be offended. We haven't got around to answering them, or you feel that you're being ignored. So moving on from Alex's presentation to some of the frequently asked questions that we've been having submitted to us as part of the registration process. There are quite a few that stand out, and a couple that I want to go over to add some clarity to where we stand as a business with WHS, the RNA, and your home union in terms of what we can and cannot do. Literally, one of the questions I've just seen is what I wanted to talk about, which is the winter handicapping solution that was in the Congi version of ClubV1. Now, we are having quite a few clubs now come to us and say they would really appreciate to have a winter handicapping solution back in ClubV1. It was something that they used at this time of year when they didn't consider the courses to be fit for official handicap qualifying. However, the official stance from World Handicapping, and in particular from the RNA, is that software providers should not, and they're emphasizing should not, be offering a winter handicapping solution as part of their software offering to golf clubs. It is particularly against the ethos and the point of a 12-month qualifying period under WHS, and they consider the concessions made in what can and cannot retain a course to be qualifying, such as how many winter greens, live clean in place, how many yards it can be different from the official measured yards, etc., etc. They feel there's enough concessions in there for it to be a 12-month playing season. In reality, whether that is correct or not, it is not for us to debate, but they are telling us that we should not be offering that solution. So that is kind of where we are with it at the moment. But having said that, and obviously from the questions I'm looking at here and what I've already been submitting, golf clubs are looking for a solution to this. So we're trying to think outside the box a little bit about how we can help golf clubs manage winter handicapping, whilst also making sure we retain the integrity of what the new handicapping system is meant to instill in people, which is a 12-month season. But also we work with the RNA individually as club systems to provide a handicapping solution to the rest of the world, of which we've actually got an attendee today who's from a club outside of the UK that is using the RNA solution. So we are very much a partner of the RNA, and we have no intention of going against the governing body of the golfing world. So we will update people on the winter handicapping as and when we can, but at the moment we are officially told by the RNA that we should not be offering a solution to golf clubs. If they are going to manipulate handicaps, it needs to be done via the WHS method that is there with the concessions in place, or they run non-qualifiers. It's pretty much as black and white for them. as that. But as I say, from a club system point of view, we're still reviewing it. We're still looking at what we can do, but with an eye on our commitment to making the WHS platform work. So that was certainly one question. Is there anything that you want to chip in there with, Alex? Have you got anything else that you want to go in now before I talk about anything else?
No, I think if you're ready to crack on, I think that's
okay. That's fine. We've had some a lot of questions around multi-tee competitions, mixed gender competitions from different sets of tees within the same competition. And I think the simple answer to that at the moment is we understand that there are stroke allowances that are not being allocated, and this is getting corrected and fixed. Maybe fixed is the wrong word. It's just not been attended to yet as part of the crossover, but it very much is. So that is one of the first things that we're going to get to reintroduce and make sure that it's applying the correct handicaps in the indices. Yeah.
So just on that, Darren, for kind of the user experience here, when you go through ClubV1 and create your competition, you can allocate those additional course cards in the setup here. So when you go to courses, at this point, you can add in additional course cards, such as the yellows, the reds, the blues, or whatever it may be. Okay, so you can do that, but as Darren said, the calculations are being worked on.
Okay, that's great. One of the other common questions that we're getting is around casual golf, and particularly where visitors are coming to the golf course wanting to return a casual score. At the moment, there's no facility within PSI or MSI to return a casual round of golf outside of being a member of that club. So that is coming. It is being worked on, and that is for early inclusion next year. And at the moment, the only solution is to go for the home golf club of that player to get a copy of the scorecard, either physically or via a photograph, as current the pandemic restrictions are obviously pushing us to do that. But they need to return that to the World Handicap platform through the portal manually at the moment. So there's no way for software providers to be able to do that at the moment, but we are working on that solution for very early next year. Everything that we're talking about will be ready to go by the time we get to the start of the full playing season, March next year. But certainly it's something that we're very aware of, and it is for inclusion. And just along the same topic of the casual scores, people have identified that unlike competition golf, where you can sign in and set a delay for when that score can be submitted, for the sake of the integrity of the score going in, you can't do the same with casual golf at the moment. So that means that you can sign into a casual game of golf. You can state your intent, I think is the correct terminology, to return that score electronically, but you can also return that score directly after signing in. So the problem that we have is that the WHS platform, the structure that they have, has no APIs, which are the connections that we need, and they have no logic within their system to differentiate the time difference between the sign-in and the score entry, to say if the score entry matches the sign-in before such time has lapsed, then disregard it. There's no logic for them to do that on their platform. So therefore, if they see a score, they accept it. And it's pretty much as simple as that at the moment. Again, I think they're going to review that. And to be honest, I think they're going to review the winter handicap solution. But at the moment, we are just going along with what they're telling us to provide to the golf clubs. So at the moment, casual scores are going in from the golfers at the golf clubs, whether they're an away player. I think Gareth at Drew's Glen asked that question about away players. If you're an away player at the club, you can submit your casual score and it will go. But as a visitor to the golf club, you can't return a casual score at that club, only through your home club. Okay, do you want to go through a couple of other things on there, Alex, that you might have?
Yeah, yep. You shout away, and we'll go through them.
So, kind of, what do we? What scores should we? Sorry, what handicapping? Which of the three handicaps should we see on a scorecard? That's one of the common questions that have been asked, and I think, in fact, I think I might answer this one because I probably know a little bit more. There's a lot of questions about scorecards, including scorecard labels, and the official line is that the course handicap is the handicap that is the relevant one for world handicapping purposes. So if you speak to England Golf, or I'm sure the home nations, they will say that as long as the course handicap is on the card, that is that's your commitment as a golfer completed. However, as a golfer myself, as Alex is, we all need to know what we're going to be on that particular course, how many shots we're going to get. So there is an update coming next week that's going to allow scorecard labels that are printed through ClubV1. So that'd be, for example, your pro shot, printing the sheet of labels the night before or the morning and attaching them to cards. That is going to very shortly get updated with the next ClubV1 release in the next week or two. So that will include your course handicap, and I believe your handicap index at the moment, but I believe a lot of people are saying it should be playing handicap on there. So we're going to review that as well, but there is a release coming that allows that to happen in the next couple of weeks. And then the label print on the PSI is coming a little bit further down the line. That requires some more work on our side to be able to manipulate the data that goes on those labels. Bit of a refresh, really. And then obviously the key one is to have the playing handicap, it's a playing index, the playing handicap available as you sign in via PSI or MSI, because it is currently there. When you return your score, when you enter your score, you can see the playing handicap. So we do need to do a little bit of work to make that available to the player as they sign in. So these things we very much know about and we're very much aware of. So there is a couple of releases coming around the Christmas time, and then I think January and February next year we're going to pick up on a lot of these more detailed and certainly different formats of golf. A lot of questions about Stableford's when it comes to Texas Scrambles, 2-ball Texas Scrambles, 4-man Texas Scrambles, mixed, all these kind of things we're going to address over the next month or so, ready for the full playing season. So please don't think that we're ignoring any of that or nobody's getting back to you. We're very aware that there are still things that we need to do, which is one of the reasons the development team is so stressed at the moment in terms of workload, and it is pretty much all world handicapping related, as everybody in the industry is, along with so I'm sure everybody realizes the demand on actually getting on the golf course at the moment is huge. So between that and world handicapping, we're working as hard as we can to get everything right. So I think at the moment that's all I wanted to say on that. If Alex has got any other bits and pieces, I'm going through the questions now.
One of the questions was just to do with the ClubV1 manual. Yes. And we will be updating that early 2021 with the WHS setting and calculations.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Alex. We are looking at updating that manual. It isn't a small task to do. It's quite a large piece of work to be able to update a written manual, but what we are doing as well as doing that is things like this, the webinars that we're doing. We introduced probably about a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, to try and interact more with our customers, to update them on what we're doing and to try and help them through some of the software that we're providing for world handicapping and a few other things. But we're also going to be doing some online tutorials as well, which we started last year around websites and how to set up T-sheets, but we're going to be doing that across the whole product suite throughout 2021. So as well as reintroducing our annual roadshows that we normally do in autumn next year, touch wood, with the pandemic restrictions being lifted by then, we'll also be adding in a lot more online content so that you can view in your own time and educate yourself in your own time, either using the manual or using probably our YouTube channel. That's going to get boosted a lot more content. So if you haven't seen our YouTube channel, Dual Systems in YouTube, it's one of the first things that comes up with our global logo with the green thing. Like it, subscribe to it, and you'll get notified when new things get added to it so you don't miss out. So, and if you do have any things that you would like to see us make the content around, drop us an email at customer-service@Club Systems, and we can put it into our schedule of events for next year. But certainly the online work that we're doing is going to really ramp up in January, February next year.
Yeah, great. Just on that, I think I think I saw a live question asked if this session is going to be on our YouTube channel, and yes, it is. So probably, I'm not sure, Darren, if we're going to get it there tomorrow, but hopefully at least by Monday or Tuesday next week we'll have it there. Yeah, we're going to try, because it does take a little manipulation and editing to get it up onto YouTube in the format that we need. So it can take a little while, but we're hoping to get it up tomorrow morning or tomorrow lunchtime.
and the YouTube video will be the first thing that you'll be advised about when it is available to view again. But it's going to take us a little while longer to get all the questions answered, because there are hundreds of questions, which nearly all of them are relevant, apart from the ones that are specifically about other products or other avenues of the business. All the WHS ones are very relevant, so we do want to answer them all, because people have taken the time to submit them today and in advance. And we've also had emails into our customer service inbox as well, because people have said the box for the registration for the question wasn't big enough. It was really only meant for one question, and I must admit we've had quite a lot more than just one question from some people. So we do want to answer all those, but it's going to take us some time to get back to them. So have a little patience with that, but we'll get the YouTube video up as soon as we can.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Darren. That's it from us today. Keep an eye out on some more webinars coming up in the future. Hope you found the session really, really useful, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.